at the time, my sister was part of a hip hop dance troupe, and she was like, "Yo, you should really do this hip hop dancing because I think you're gonna like it a lot." And from seeing a majority of the hip hop videos, majority of the times you see girls dressed sexy dancing, and I was like, "Yo, dancing's not for me. Dancing's for girls." Until one day, she's in the basement and she's practicing six steps, and I just lose my mind. I'm like, "Yo, what the hell is this?" And she's like, "Yeah, this is the hip hop that I was telling you about." So I kid you not, the next weekend I went to sign up to dance classes, and that was it, man. I got into it.
Dang. Salute to the subscribers, those that live beyond the Cypher. I am your host, Illskillz. This is Beyond the Cypher, the podcast that shows the humanity in the superhuman. If you're new to the channel, please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons. They cost you nothing. Today, for episode 22, Tried by 12, the last episode of season 1, we have a dancer's dancer, B-boy, all styles, house, you name it. Representing my favorite city in Canada. I know I've debated this with a couple of, what do we call it, Torontonians?
Yeah.
Yeah, but my favorite city in Canada, Montreal, Quebec, we have Bboy Afternoon. What's up, Afternoon? How you doing, my man?
Doing good, doing good. You?
I'm doing great, man. Appreciate you spending some time with us. Something I noticed right off the bat, and I think a lot of people don't know this, the actual sign for peace is actually two fingers together, and that the two fingers apart is basically a sign of war because it means victory.
V sign. Forget what the famous movie about Guy Fawkes tells us. V usually means victory and not vendetta. The original meaning of this gesture, made with the index and middle fingers, with the palm facing outwards, was exactly that. It's believed to have been coined by a Belgian politician during World War II, but was popularized by more famous figures such as Churchill, Eisenhower, and Nixon. Over time, the gesture came to be used to say, "Peace and friendship to all, folks, but be careful. If you get it wrong, instead of peace, you'll get war."
Right? So,
100%.
No doubt, man. Just little things already off the bat, right?
Definitely.
No doubt, man. Now, usually I start with, how did you get into hip hop? But I want to go back even before that. I want to talk to you about how I came into the knowledge that, of what you were doing in Montreal. And so what happened was I had been to Montreal a couple times, but I had never competed, right? Actually, when we went there, I just went on some tourism. I was like, what are the dopest restaurants? What are the dopest, the sights to see and stuff like that, right? So when I came for Under Pressure, I had already been there multiple times, but I like to do my research. You know what I'm saying? So I was researching and I came across you, right? And one thing that jumped out at me when I first came into the knowledge of you, you were hosting and you were talking about the space where the event was, and then you kind of after you said where they were, you did like a dedication to the indigenous people, I guess, who used to inhabit it or used to own the area. What was that about?
So there's these things that a lot of people like to do here for events is land acknowledgements.
Before I begin this morning, I'd like to recognize the Algonquin Nation, on whose traditional territory we are gathering. We acknowledge them as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land.
Wherever I go on God's green earth, I do the Lakota tradition of acknowledging the four directions, the land, and the people living there.
So basically, letting people know what was the territory before colonization and just letting people know a bit of the history. I did my own flip on it because, as weird as it sounds, I'm not down with people doing that, and solely for one reason. It's like saying, hey, we stole your shit, but we're not going to do anything about it. So let's get the party jumping.
Right.
So for me, it was more of a way to poke at that and at the same time make people realize that, words are nice, but what are we actually going to do about it?
Right. And that reminds me of this time when I was in Calgary and I went to their museum. I think is it the Glenbow Museum? I can't remember exactly what the museum is called, but it's like their major museum, right? And I went there, and one of the things that I thought was dope about the museum, so they were telling the history of Canada, right? And it was from a very like white Canadian perspective. But then if you went in a certain order around the room, at the end there was always this plaque, and it said the Indigenous people's perspective, something like that, right? And it was the exact opposite of everything you just saw in the room. So it was like, the white perspective was like, we came here, we worked with the Indians, we built this great society, right? And then you would get to the end, and then the Indians would be like, or the indigenous people would be like, they came here, they were cool at first, they started tripping, they took everything. You know what I'm saying? So I thought that was a good clash of ideologies and perspectives located in the same room. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm sure you've been there, that Pointe Callière Museum.
Yeah, man. It's the kind of place that you go as a kid. It's like one of the school trips you have to do. They're like, all right, we're heading there.
Right. So I'm sitting there, right? And it's where you have to watch that movie. Like when it's like the first stop before you go through the rest of the museum. And that was the same story. And they were just like, we found this place. These people were tripping, even though we were trying to work with them. So basically we had to kill them. And here we are. Welcome to Montreal. Isn't it great? Isn't it the dopest city in Canada? You know what I'm saying? So like every time I think of those things, it reminds me of when I first came into the knowledge of you and you doing those land dedications. So that is dope, man.
And what's funny is that you're going to see that way of creating a narrative that was different from maybe in Calgary, where they showed one side and the other side, is a lot what makes Montreal and Quebec what it is. Ooh. Not acknowledging that there's other perspectives other than the main white perspective of history and society.
Wow. And we're going to get into that deeper. But first, in the tradition of Beyond the Cypher, how did you come into contact with hip hop, sir?
Man, it's like, now that I look back at it, I'm like, oh, snap. But, you don't think about it when it's happening. So as a kid growing up, like I'm Haitian, both of my parents are Haitian. I was born in Montreal, but I have family in the United States. And the thing that a lot of Haitians parents do is like summertime rolls up and we just leave. We go to the United States to spend time with family. I had family in like Queens, Brooklyn, Long Island. So I pretty much as a kid always spent my summers in New York. And it was dope because at the time, my cousins had all of the dope video games. So I'd have access to everything over there. And they put me on to music. So like that's where I actually got a taste for hip hop music, because they were giving me music that I didn't have access to back home. And I was like, yo, this is hype. They look like me. Like, what the hell is this, So I would always come back from the States with tapes of music that they gave me. And then I would try to research around me and see like, where could I find that in my surroundings, At the time, Columbia Music House.
Ever get a whole bunch of CDs for a penny or even free? Columbia House and the BMG Music Service both offered amazing deals. About 8 CDs at almost no cost to you, then just buy one more at full retail price, and you get 3 more for free. Sounds too good to be true, right? How could something like this make money?
Remember, it's our secret, so watch your mail for this package from Columbia.
You can join these things for a penny, get a bunch of music for almost free, as long as you promise to buy a certain amount of music over the next year or so at regular club prices.
That's Larry Miller. He's an NYU professor and music industry vet with a podcast about the industry, Musonomics.
The regular price of the CDs that you would buy was the suggested retail price, which was $17.98, $18.98, $19.98, plus shipping and handling for those CDs.
Those prices and the shipping costs were key to the club's success.
Used to have this thing where you could order.
Oh, don't tell them. Don't tell the youngsters.
I didn't even want to date myself, but I had to say this. You could get a bunch of CDs for $1. So like, I remember fighting with my sisters on like which albums we would pick. Cause I was like, yo, I want these. And they're like, oh, we want a little bit of everything. I'm like, no, I want this. So
Right.
yeah, that's how I first got in contact with hip hop.
Right. And side note, the in the small print, after you got those CDs for $1, you had to get like 1,000 more CDs at full price to complete the obligation.
It was sort of like a membership that if you didn't cancel before you ran the, I think it's 30 days for the 10 CDs, then they just loop and keep the payments rolling. So I knew
Exactly,
people
man.
that were like signing up under one name, getting the 10 CDs, canceling, and then repeating the process.
Oh man, just a fat CD book full of
Yep.
the free joints, no doubt.
Even cassettes back then too.
Ooh man, you dating yourself, but yeah, I remember the cassettes, man. I so what I was going to ask you was, what was some of the music that they were introducing you to?
Man, pretty much everything, man. Like literally everything that had to do with hip hop, I first got in contact through them. So let me think, around what years was I over there? Like maybe the years that I can actually remember, start thinking about like the sounds.
Right.
I tell you 93, 94.
Oh, so you
So
getting
pretty
some
much the
Wu
music,
Tang?
yeah, the music that was around at the time was what I was getting access to. And at the same time, like for me, there's a direct link between the music and the video games. Because literally, what I would like doing most of the time is just sit down and play video games and try to finish them. Because back then you couldn't save it, and then the music would
Right.
just be blasting in the background.
No doubt. Word. So, like, how do you transition from like being a hip hop fan of the music to being a participant in the dancing?
So this is the thing that's super weird. Like, dancing is part of like Haitian culture, Black culture. So when there's parties with the family, gatherings, there's music, we're dancing. But I wasn't seeing it as hip hop dance or even aware that there was such thing as like breaking, popping. You just saw everything. For me, for a long time, it was only the music that I was connected to, music and graffiti. So I would draw
Okay.
when I was in high school, listen to music, write rhymes. I was part of a couple of rap groups, freestyle with friends. And it wasn't until I got into college that I started seeing glimpse of breaking in video clips, people dancing at talent shows. And I was always like, yo, that's the thing that I won't be able to reach because it's only given to a chosen few. And I
Wow.
remember at the time my sister was part of a hip hop dance troupe, and she was like, "Yo, you should really do this hip hop dancing because I think you're gonna like it a lot." And from seeing a majority of the hip hop videos, majority of the times you see girls dressed sexy dancing, and I was like, "Yo, dancing's not for me. Dancing's for girls." Until one day, she's in the basement and she's practicing six steps. And I just lose my mind. I'm like, yo, what the hell is this? And she's like, yeah, this is the hip hop that I was telling you about. So I kid you not, the next weekend I went to sign up to dance classes, and that was it, man. I got into it.
Dang.
I didn't
So you.
have access to breaking at first. It was more hip hop choreography, and they were throwing in things, but it led me to discovering the scene here in Canada and Montreal.
Wow. And then from this, you discover the breaking scene.
Yeah. So I was part of this dance troupe called Dance Core Troupe. And yeah, we were basically doing hip hop choreography, but the guy was very adamant into bringing different pieces of different street dance styles.
Okay.
So we would learn about popping a little bit, locking a little bit, breaking a little bit. And he even took us on trips to New York where we actually got to hang and meet different people. Like I remember the first time I was in New York and actually for dance, not seeing family or whatever, I went to the house dance conference. And for those people who don't know, it was this event that they used to throw on two floors. You had a house floor and you had a hip hop and funk floor. So all the b-boys and the hip hop dancers were on that funk and hip hop floor. And then all the house heads were on the other floor. And it was just like dancing the whole night, man.
Dang. That's an ill introduction, isn't it?
Yo, man, I was blessed.
That's dope. Word.
As the battle went on, it wasn't something aggressive. Like we were actually feeling what we were doing. So seeing that there were the same sensibilities when it came to the dance to the musicality and the communication that was happening on the dance floor. So we actually spent time afterwards just talking about it and being like, yo, like, you guys are cool, like, we're cool. How about we just like join forces?
For more quality content from Beyond the Cypher with Illskillz, don't forget to press the like and subscribe buttons. Let us know how we're doing down in the comment section, and to make sure that you don't miss anything from the channel, smash that notification bell. We appreciate the love and support. Peace until the next episode.